Dan Illman and Matt Bernier are taking a look at race number 9 at Santa Anita on Saturday. It is the Grade 2 San Marco Stakes. We are going 1.25 miles on the turf for older horses. Great card at Santa Anita on Saturday. Get involved with a DRF Bets account. Deposit $50, bet with $200. DRF Bets, ready, set, bet. Here's the field for the Grade 2 San Marcos, one of the best betting races of the entire weekend. We're going the classic distance of 1.25 miles on the turf. $200,000 is the purse. We have a full field. Let's start our analysis with the number 3 Chicago Style, winner of the Hollywood Turf Cup. 2 starts back at 1.5 miles. They turned him back in the San Gabriel. I understand why, Matt. They wanted to see if this was a horse that maybe would be able to run in races like that Pegasus World Cup turf at the 1 1/8. And I just think it was a little short for him. He ran well, but he's getting back out to a more appropriate distance here.
I was going to say, this 1.25 miles, there should be more to his liking. I still think he's probably better going a little bit longer than this. But you look at this field, I agree with you. To me, it's the best race of the weekend. It's the best betting race of the weekend. And Chicago Style, having said all that, is the most likely winner, and he deserves to be. He deserves to be the favorite in a spot like this based on what he's accomplished. I thought he showed a really nice kick in that San Gabriel. He just ran out of real estate. You give him an extra 1/8 of a mile, I think he gets there. I think he passes next shares. In many ways, he is the horse that they're all going to have to handle in here. I'm not going to argue with anyone that says that he is the one.
Intriguing new face is the 4 Epical. A lot of these horses, they've been in the handicap ranks on the turf for a long time. They usually seem to beat each other. Nobody ever really seems to go on a big win streak. Epical's taken a step up off 2 very impressive wins for trainer Jim Cassidy. They figured out this guy's MO. He's got to be either forwardly placed, if not outright on the lead. I loved what he did last time out, going 1 1/8. I mean, he set the pace and he just drilled him on the turn and kept right on going. My main concern, we throw up the Timeform US pace projector, is there's got to be other speed in the race. Dabster's going to be forward, but India Mantuana, the filly, she's a runner and gunner. Can Epical sit and finish while stepping up in class?
That was the only thing that made me a little bit skeptical of this horse, because I've loved each of his past two races. The most recent one, that N2X, like you say, he put the boots to that field. I tweeted about it on Thursday afternoon. I talked about it on my podcast. That ride that Tyler Bays gave 2 starts back, that's how you're supposed to ride a speed horse on grass, where you blow the field open, going down the backside into the far turn, and you say, you know what, I know I'm going to be able to stay, and those horses are going to need to finish sub-22 to come and catch me. Nobody can do that. I think Epical is a very, to me, he's the most fascinating horse in the race. He's paired up by her tops. If he can successfully sit off of India Mantuana, if you believe Dabster is going to be forwardly placed, even Roman Rosso, if you think that he can successfully relax, sit, and still be as effective and show that giant finish, not only is this race there for the taking for him, down the road, he could end up being the boss in Southern California, because really this division, there's kind of a void right now.
I agree. Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector. One of the 2 Baffert horses trying turf for the first time, the 7 Dabster, expected to make the lead. Dabster really wants this distance. His coming out party came in that marathon on Breeders' Cup weekend, going 14 furlongs. He gave Battle a Midway and Gift Box all they could handle in 2 subsequent starts at shorter distances. He's got some turf pedigree, Matt. He's a half the good old Dr. Mount D, graded stakes winner on the turf. Curlin, 13% winners with first-time turf runners. Listen, he's the class of the race, arguably, and he wouldn't be a surprise with this pedigree. Just Baffert on turf worries a lot of folks. Does it worry you?
100%. I mean, that was the real thing, because of the 2 Bafferts, and we'll talk about Roman Rosso in a bit, but you brought it up. The pedigree is actually there for this horse to really appreciate this turf surface. The problem is Baffert just doesn't do this. He doesn't run these horses on grass, and the way I laid it out in my podcast was the idea that, look, if you needed a 3-year-old to get ready for the Derby or the Triple Crown, there's no one else that you'd rather have than Baffert. If you needed to have a horse ready at 1.25 miles on turf, I wouldn't pick Baffert, plain and simple. And it's not meant to be a knock. It's not his strength. That's the only thing that I have as a bit of a reservation with this horse. Otherwise, I do think he's a little bit interesting.
Roman Rosso, the number 2, the other Baffert horse trying turf for the first time. He came to North America last summer with a big reputation. He had won 3 consecutive Group 1 races in South America. He was 6-1 against Accelerate in the Pacific Classic. He ended up being 7-2 against Battle of Midway when he came back in the Comet of the Top race. And he didn't run very well in either one of those starts. Roman Ruler is sire, about 10% winners with first-time turf runners. This dam was Group 1 placed in Argentina on the turf, but you would have thought that if they thought he was a turf horse, they would have run him there at least once.
Yeah, and to me, I hate to say this feels like a give up already, but just kind of the Pacific Classic. I was stunned at how much speed he showed that day. I expected him to come from farther off of it because we had heard going into it Baffert saying, you know, he's kind of a grinder. He's kind of that horse that's going to need a little bit of pace in front of him to come with a run. Instead, he goes out there and cuts out 46 and a piece. It makes me wonder, you know, then you run him in a mile race. I don't know. This feels like a little bit too much of a give up to me. I don't like him. Of the two Bafferts, I'd take Dabster every day.
Timeform's got the 11, India Montuana sitting in third. I think Joel Rosario sending this mare. That's what resulted in the big win in the Grade 3 red carpet. 2 starts back at a mile and 3/8. Last time out, she just got cooked. Went way too fast in the Astra, paid the price. I think it was a situation where I learned my lesson. The red carpet was the time to have her. That was the wedding. I was around for the funeral in the Astra. And here, she's going to be going against some tough males, horses like Epical, horses like Roman Rosso, horses like Dabster, that might be able to keep her occupied up front.
I tell you what, if there was less speed in this race, I would have been really tempted to pick her, because I think this is a little bit reminiscent of that pattern that we saw when she ultimately went on to win the red carpet. You look, she came off the bench in that mile race. She wasn't on the lead, but she was close to a hot pace in the grand scheme of things, and she faded late. She comes back and she stretches out and she gets it done in the red carpet. She showed speed in that Astra, faded. Now I think you're going to have a tighter version. The problem is, boy, she's going to have some company on the front end, and she's facing better horses.
European Invader, the 6 Sejo, is interesting simply if you believe the pace is going to be fast, because this colt wants distance. He's getting Lasix for the first time. He's with John Sadler. I believe he was entered maybe last month at a much shorter distance, a race that probably would have been served as a prep for this. They waited for this race. Not sure what he was beaten over there in Longchamp over the summer. Runner-up, came back to finish second in a poly-track handicap. 12th place finisher, came back to win a weaker handicap. Thought this horse had a good enough trip in that race to win it by a length and a half. It was a solid performance. This is a really long layoff. I'm taking a wait-and-see approach, but maybe he's an interesting contender down the road.
You know, I guess the way that I'm looking at this, I think it's fascinating that Pratt has the mount here, because Pratt doesn't generally ride for Sadler. But I also look at it and say, if you don't like anyone in this field, why not take the complete unknown, going out for hot connections? And like you say, from a distance standpoint, this should be what this horse wants. It's also worth noting, and it's hard to ignore, that his 2 wins to date both came over firm going. He's probably going to get that, even with a little bit of rain in the forecast Friday night into Saturday morning.
You and I took a shot with the old boy Flamboyant. 8 years old. We took a chance with him last time out in the San Gabriel, and he kind of was just one-paced. Finished evenly. It was an okay enough performance. He ran as usual, mid-90 Beyer speed figure. If you give him some pace, he's going to come with a run. But at this point now, I'm willing to say with the Millionaire, I'll use him underneath. I'm not sure, even at the price he's going to be, and it'll be a good one, that I don't want to take too much of a shot. He's pretty much exposed to me.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit of a dull effort in the San Gabriel. I didn't have any real excuse for that, and I've long maintained, again, broken record, he's between a mile and an eighth. You get him out to a mile and a quarter, mile and a half, I don't want any part of him.
Gives me the heaves, Flamboyant. You know, I'm coughing when I think about all the money I've lost about him over the years. The 12 is you gotta wanna. You gotta wanna, Matt. And Phil D'Amato, when he wanna takes the blinkers off, he's done very well from limited opportunities. Here's a formulator fact. Past 5 years, older turf runners removing the blinkers, 20%, $2.50 ROI. This horse has been beaten by several of these runners in the past. His big effort came in the Del Mar Handicap when he was 45-1. He did not have a good trip in that race, but he has yet to run back to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, between that and the John Henry Turf Cup, those were 2 pretty big efforts in the grand scheme of things. Problem is, he came back in that Hollywood Turf Cup. Maybe it was off the layoff that he needed one, but I didn't think he really ever threatened in there. He didn't have the cleanest trip in that N2X, but now with an equipment change, there's just enough things going against that I don't like.
Platinum Warrior's getting there. Getting there slowly. Last time out in the San Gabriel going a mile and an eighth, I thought he ended up in a real nice spot. Saving ground turning into the stretch. He tried to shoot up the rail and just kind of finished evenly against the likes of Next Chairs. It was his first start as a 4-year-old. He's got a little bit of upside potential. He's going to get a chance to stretch back out in distance. Remember, his one only start in North America was the Secretariat, and he only was beaten 3 lengths in a really good effort.
Yeah, I guess I'm just torn on how good this horse actually is. But again, if you're looking for a relatively fresh face at a distance like this, and also the other thing to keep in mind, I do like the fact, don't let those other couple races on his page where he's sitting, 6, 7 lengths out of it kind of dissuade you. I think he has a little bit more versatility than that. If he's going to be 2 lengths off of it, maybe he's one of those horses that sits in behind the potential speed. If the speed collapses, maybe he can get first run. But to be honest, I don't love this horse.
Prince of Arabia on the far outside, multiple graded placed on dirt in his career, also capable on the turf. He's got some things going against him. Long layoff, outside post position. As with the European horse coming off the July layoff, I want to wait and see because there have been races where Prince of Arabia has hinted at some potential.
Yeah, the only way that I can put it is, look, I don't love this horse, but he has outrun his odds on a number of occasions. He doesn't like to win races very clearly. He's 3 of 23 lifetime. But if all of a sudden he popped up and showed up with some giant effort to run third at 50 to 1, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Before we get to our top picks, let's talk about Long Shot Lucky Soul, the number 9, 30 to 1 on the morning line, coming out of a real live race. First two finishers came back to win. Problem is Lucky Soul didn't do any running in that race and is still eligible for an hours of 2 life.
Yeah, I suppose maybe getting back to these longer distances, look at those runs 2 and 3 starts back at 3/8 and a quarter. Those were 2 of his faster races from a buyer's standpoint, but I just don't know that he stacks up.
Let's take a look at our top selections in the Grade 2 San Marcos Stakes. We're going to try to beat some of the shorter priced horses. We've got horses trying turf for the first time. We don't know if they can handle it. We've got horses coming off long layoffs. We don't know if they'll be ready. We've got old friends like Flamboyant, and we've tried them and it just hasn't worked out in the past. Unapologetic may not be a stakes horse. We tried it in the Del Mar Handicap 3 starts back. He didn't run very well. I thought he had a little trouble in that race. You throw that race out, you throw the dirt race out 4 starts back, you're left with a horse that's been in very good form for Bill Sparr. Now, last time out, we could have had him for 62.5. Nobody took him. He got a great pace setup and a beautiful ride from Giovanni Franco. But I love the way he finished that race off. This is a sharp horse right now, and I think he's going to get some pace, and the distance isn't a problem, and he's 10 to 1 on the line.
He's the kind of horse that, to me, he's what Formulator is all about. And again, I went through it all with my podcast. You go through and look at all of his races on grass at 1.25 miles or longer, with the exception of being E's first time that they went 1.25 miles with him, and that 9th place finish in the Del Mar Handicap, which preceded a layoff. All you have is a second, a first, a first, a first, and a first. This is a horse that has loved being stretched out in distance. You get him out to these longer, and again, I mean, sometimes it happens with different horses, whether it's running style. We talk about it with Epical, talk about it with surface, talk about it with distance, you name it. There's certain horses like certain things, and to me, it's very clear that this horse, he wants to go longer on the grass. I picked him third in here, and ultimately for me, this race will come down to price. If he ends up being something crazy in that 10, 12 to 1 range, I think he is a primetime player in here. I would definitely be intrigued.
You're going with the hard hitter Beachview, graded stakes winner on dirt, but he is mostly a turf horse, and I think a lot of handicappers are looking at that Hollywood Turf Cup, the Chicago style one, and they're saying if Beachview had a little bit more luck, he would have won that race.
The way that, maybe this is being too simple about it, but I look at it and say, if you reverse the position for each of those horses, Chicago Style and Beachview, I think Beachview wins the race, and I think Chicago Style is right there, and everybody looks at him and says, oh, if he'd only gotten clear, he's right there. Beachview ran a bang-up race that day. He is loaded for bear, turning for home, and there's absolutely nowhere for it to go. Meanwhile, on the outside, Chicago Style's got a full head of steam, and he's in the clear. It's why I always talk about it. With turf racing, save ground until you get going into the far turn, and then at that point, just get out in the clear. I want to be able to run. I don't want to be bottled up behind runners. Draw a line through that San Antonio. I know he has one on dirt before, but that's going long distances. To me, I'm hopeful that maybe he gets a little bit lost in the shuffle and people don't think he's actually that good. The difference between he and Chicago Style, I really don't think is that big.
Sensational betting race. Give me numbers.
8-3-1-4.
1-4-3-5 for me in the Grade 2 San Marcos. Again, we've got plenty of graded stakes action at Santa Anita on Saturday. Get involved with a DRF Bets account. Deposit $50. Bet with $200 at bets.drf.com. Approximate post time for the San Marcos race number 9 at Santa Anita on Saturday, 3:42 Pacific. Good luck.